Today's story shows some of the root causes of self-esteem challenges, some practical steps which may help overcome low self-esteem, and how possible benefits of improving your self-esteem could affect your life. Listen to the end of the story to learn the moral of the story. In a quiet town nestled between rolling hills and shimmering lakes, there lived a young girl named Emily. Although Emily was gentle and kind, she often felt as though she were living in the shadows, struggling to understand her place in the world. From a young age, Emily faced challenges that wore down her self-esteem, leaving scars on her heart and mind. At school, Emily was often the target of teasing. She wasn't as talkative or bold as the other kids, and her quiet nature seemed to make her a magnet for bullies. They'd snicker at her clothes, which were hand-me-downs from her cousins, and call her names that burned her cheeks with shame. Emily tried to ignore them, but the hurtful words lingered, and each insult planted seeds of doubt in her mind. As she grew, Emily started to believe the taunts. If I were good enough, she'd think, people would like me. At home, she found little refuge. Her parents were hardworking and cared for her deeply, but they believed in tough love and rarely praised her, focusing more on what she could improve. You should try harder in sport, her father would say, or you could have done better on that test. Each comment, though not intended to harm, slowly chipped away at her confidence. Over time, Emily believed her parents were disappointed in her and that no matter what she did, it wouldn't be enough to make them proud. The pressures only grew with time. Seeing classmates' perfect lives on social media felt like a constant reminder of everything she lacked. Emily knew her reality was different. Her messy room, her hobbies she kept secret out of embarrassment, her insecurities. Her life felt nothing like the highlight reel everyone else seemed to live. She was trapped in a world where every glance in the mirror seemed to echo the same thought: I'm not good enough. Then one chilly autumn morning, everything changed. Emily was sitting alone by the pond in the park, wrapped in her favorite oversized sweater, her mind adrift. An elderly woman sat beside her, watching her with gentle eyes. She wore a knitted shawl and carried a warmth that Emily hadn't felt in a long time. I see the pond has another thoughtful visitor today, the woman said, her voice soft but full of kindness. Startled, Emily looked up. Oh, I suppose it does, she replied shyly, unsure how to respond. The woman extended her hand with a gentle smile. I'm Mrs. Hazel, she introduced herself. Sometimes a stranger's ear can help lighten the load. Something about Mrs. Hazel's presence made Emily feel safe enough to share her story. She poured out everything she'd held inside. The bullying, her parents' critical words, the constant comparisons she made to others, and how none of it made her feel good enough. Mrs. Hazel listened with deep compassion, her wise eyes never judging, only understanding. You know, Emily, Mrs. Hazel said, most people feel this way at some point. Struggling with self-worth is more common than you might think. In fact, it's estimated that around 85% of people feel the same. Mrs. Hazel gave her a small mirror. When you're ready, look into this each morning and say one kind thing about yourself. You may be surprised at how quickly the reflection changes. Emily felt silly at first, but decided to give it a try. Each morning, she looked in the mirror and told herself one positive thing, even if it felt small. You were kind to someone yesterday, she'd say. Or, you have a good heart. With each small affirmation, she started noticing her accomplishments rather than her flaws. The ritual became her sanctuary. She realized that her view of herself wasn't an absolute truth, but a reflection of the hurtful experiences she'd carried. She thought about her parents' comments, the bullying, and how social media had made her feel. Maybe, she thought, I don't have to measure up to everyone else. Maybe I just have to be myself. As her confidence grew, Emily found herself taking on challenges she'd once avoided. She joined the school art club, sharing her love for drawing. The first time she presented her art, her hands trembled. But as her classmates admired her work, her heart swelled with pride. The experience was a reminder that she didn't need to be flawless to be valued. With this new confidence, Emily's relationships began to transform. Her friend Lila noticed the change in her demeanor and found herself inspired to confront her own self-doubt. One day, when a bully targeted Lila, she stood up for herself, drawing courage from Emily's example. Emily realized that her journey was having a ripple effect. touching the lives of those around her and helping others believe in themselves too. Back at home, her parents noticed the shift as well. Emily's father, who had always been quick to criticize, softened when he saw her newfound confidence. One evening, as Emily sat sketching at the kitchen table, he approached and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're talented, Emily," he said, his voice gentler than she'd ever heard it. "I'm proud of you." It was the kind of validation she had longed for, but no longer depended on to feel worthy. Emily realized her self-esteem had grown to become something solid, not easily shaken by others' opinions. Her inner strength radiated outward, and this confidence allowed her to connect with her family, friends, and even strangers in a deeper, more authentic way. She was no longer bound by the limitations of self-doubt, and for the first time, she felt worthy of love, happiness, and success. Not because she was perfect, but because she was herself. As she continued on her journey, Emily thought of Mrs. Hazel's words. If so many people struggled with their self-worth, then perhaps by learning to value herself, she could help make the world kinder, one small interaction at a time. She wondered how different the world might be if everyone could see themselves as she was learning to, with compassion and acceptance. If others could believe in themselves too, she thought, maybe there would be less hurt, fewer broken friendships, and more kindness. Emily's journey shows us that true self-esteem isn't an isolated gain. It's a gift that radiates outward. As Emily learned to believe in herself, she inspired those around her, including her friends and family, to do the same. Self-confidence creates a positive ripple effect, encouraging those around us to see themselves with compassion and pursue their dreams without fear. When we are kinder to ourselves, we build a more compassionate world, one interaction at a time. This story illustrates that self-esteem is a journey worth taking, not just for ourselves, but for the greater impact it brings to the lives of those we touch. The moral of the story is, self-worth doesn't come from being perfect or meeting others' standards. It comes from recognizing our own value, embracing our strengths and flaws, and learning to show kindness to ourselves. By nurturing our inner confidence, we create a ripple effect that positively impacts everyone around us. Moral of the story isn't qualified to help, diagnose, or suggest remedies for personal self-esteem challenges. Our story is, hopefully, a good starting point for those people who may feel the need for help in this area. We want to offer special thanks to the YouTube videos and other sources we use to gather information for this story. Please see the description section for links to these reference materials. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe so we can produce more stories like this one.